All right, so today we're going to talk about avatars in the metaverse and why this is an important component in how metaverse will continue, I think, its expansion into branding and a lot of different kinds of front-end partnerships that could really kind of change the dynamics of how you experience the metaverse in the future. It's going to be a good show, so make sure and stick around for everything. We're going to do some questions with a special guest, dive into a lot of that. It's going to be fun. My name is Paul Barron. Welcome back to Metaverse Insider. And this is one that has been asked on our channel for quite some time. We've had a lot of people wanting to know a little bit more about this and really kind of to get an understanding of where this might be going. So we wanted to have Timmu Tõke, who is the co-founder and CEO of Ready Player Me. Great to have you on the show, Timmu.
Hey, great to be here.
Excellent. So, hey, let's go into a few things. When you look at, and most of the time when we look at the metaverse, obviously the framework is a very important part of it, but the visual aspect, I think, is probably the most key element. Obviously, that's where
Mhm.
Ready Player Me comes into play. Let's first get into a few things. I want to learn a little bit about the number of integrations and or partnerships that you guys are into. I don't have to know them all, but I'm just kind of curious. Obviously, that is a big part of it. Where are you guys today? What are some of the things you could share?
Yeah, totally. So first, like the goal we have with Ready Player Me is to give users an avatar they can use across many different virtual worlds. You know, the metaverse is not one place or one app; it's a network of thousands and millions of different experiences. So it makes sense for you to have an avatar that travels between them. And on from a developer side, when you're building a new game or a new virtual world, you need to build an avatar system. And building one takes 6 months to a few years if you want to do it really well. And that's a major pain for developers. So we give them
Yeah.
our SDKs and APIs so they can integrate our avatar system. And we work with almost 5,000 companies now that use our avatars in their
Mm.
games and virtual worlds and experiences. So it's quite a lot of them. And because all those companies are using our avatar system, it's easy for us to create real interoperable experiences where you create the avatar in one of the experiences, one of the apps, you buy NFTs for it, and that same avatar travels across all the different experiences we work with. So really trying to kind of connect the different virtual worlds together. And yeah,
Right.
almost 5,000 companies. It's probably 20% to 25% Web3, all kinds of things. But it's also virtual events, it's VR meetings, it's VR training, it's virtual education. You know, there's a lot of different things in there, a lot of different kind of 3D virtual worlds. Any 3D world needs an avatar. So, and yeah, we work with a lot of them. And some examples, VRChat, which is one of the biggest VR experience, Spatial, a big Web3 social world and gallery and so forth. Hybrid World, they have 4 million user-generated games and virtual worlds. Those are some of the companies we work with from the kind of games and virtual world side.
Yeah, we had a chance to get Spatial on the show not too long ago. Had a sit down with their CEO, and it was interesting. Some of the companies that are really starting to implement some of this use case, and what I look at, especially around the brand partnerships. I want to go to the L'Oreal partnership
Mhm.
real quickly. Um,
Yep.
you look at what's happening with L'Oreal, and first of all, I think this from the beauty standpoint, we could really see a huge explosion in metaverse as a
Mhm.
whole. What was the core architecture of the partnership? Was it just developing the avatar system, or are you guys going further into maybe integration into some brand activities, et cetera? Tell me a little bit about L'Oreal.
Yeah. So maybe just for background, you know, kind of anyone that creates any brand that creates virtual accessories or assets or you know hairstyles and makeup and stuff, like all of them have the same problem, which is like making those assets usable in games. And instead of going to one by one, going to different games and creating custom assets for each of them, we can give brands access to thousands of different virtual worlds with one integration. And that
Yeah.
was why we initially got in touch with L'Oreal. Um, they are very kind of I think they have a very kind of long term vision to being a part of the metaverse, and it's been great working with them because of that. I think their approach is to try to figure out how does beauty play a role in the metaverse, and as you see on
Right.
those images there, like they actually created hairstyles, they created makeup, which is like not exactly like a copy of the real world necessarily. It's more experimental. It's more like it goes to the identity, like your identity is more kind of flexible in the metaverse, and I think that was their approach to the first kind of thing we did together. But yeah, there's more to come.
I think these are the types of programs I think really will start to accelerate a lot of use case scenarios for this. The other area that I'm curious is just in looking in the opportunities around Web 2. You had mentioned a lot of different integrations that typically have not made their way into Web 3 just yet. Are you finding that more companies and partners are looking at trying to, essentially amp up their Web 2 experience with something like this, kind of that hybrid between Web 2, Web 3, and what it might roll out into? Is that where you see the most growth?
Yeah. So I mean, I think Web3, like it needs kind of definition in that sense. Like it's a broad term. Different people think about it in a different way. What we see happening in the world and what the brands see happening in the world is that people will spend more and more time in virtual worlds using their avatars. Every year, every decade, will spend more time in virtual worlds. So and those avatars need they need to be expressive and they need to have brands from the real world they can use on the avatar, and it's also a big opportunity in terms of like just being part of the avatar economy. um, and and that's kind of like how we think about it, and that's why they want to be involved. And Web 2 and Web 3, I think there's still like a big kind of backlash. There's a big the gamers hate NFTs in some cases.
Yeah.
So and like in general, it's a very kind of misunderstood kind of a thing. So brands, especially in a kind of a down market, they just want to be a part of the kind of virtual economy and virtual worlds and understand how they can be involved in that. And they all believe that Web3 is going to be a big part of how those worlds are going to be built and run in the future. But there are other ways they can try and be involved and learn about kind of like what is their place there. Are they going to
Yeah.
make a copy of their autumn collection and sell it in the metaverse? Are they going to have a different line and a different brand maybe they built that is like metaverse native? Are they going to use it for promotion? Are they going to actually sell stuff? So all those things can be actually tested without like using NFTs. In some cases, we do use NFTs, and some other cases we don't. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, when I look at the scenarios that are happening right now with most of the big brands, one of the things that kind of sticks out is some of the activations that we have seen here on our channel. We've kind of showcased several of them. One of them is Starbucks. Now, Starbucks recently launched their Odyssey beta program. It's just now coming out it's on Polygon. And we did a breakdown of this. One thing that I was surprised with, because a company like Starbucks, I kind of expected maybe a little bit more integration here. But these essentially were the avatars that they created. How difficult is it for you guys to integrate into, first of all, multi-chain, getting into be able to framework up within Polygon and be able to help companies like this to really create this new ecosystem? Say a scale of 1 to 10 in terms of complexity. Is this a fairly easy, normal project that you guys would take on every day?
Yeah, super easy. We have a product that like kind of enables that, so there's no like much custom work and things like that. So if Starbucks wanted to have a Starbucks avatar, and maybe you could earn skins and outfits for the avatar by collecting
Right.
the badges and so forth, the stamps or what they were called, can't remember.
Yep,
They
stamps.
could redeem those. Yeah, so they could redeem those for actual avatar assets that are usable not only in their app but across many different virtual worlds, which would really give those assets utility and would people like would make people maybe work harder for them, right? And that goes for all kinds of brand experiences. It can be
Right.
a brand activation. You can actually sell assets in one world or one experience that are usable across thousands of experiences instead of just in that world, or even like
Yeah.
a virtual concert or something like that. It's making something interoperable just makes it more useful for the users and brings many more kind of interesting ways to use those things.
How do you guys see the use case? Because I think a lot of what's happening right now, and at least on business where they're trying to go B2C type applications, one of the big key areas is CRM, customer relationship management. A lot of these integrations that are already what has been Web 2, loyalty, all those kind of things. That's what Starbucks essentially was trying to do. But there's other companies out there. Nike's obviously doing this with Swoosh, really trying to create a very digital forward brand and that connectivity. Have you guys started to partner with these platforms for things like loyalty tracking, personal profile tracking? Obviously, the ID aspect of that for Web3 is going to be huge. Where are you guys in as far as that development? How far along?
Yeah, so we are used in some kind of loyalty programs, but it's not something we've been like focused on specifically. But in general, like we're just focused on avatars and building open tools so anyone can tap into that and use it in whatever way they want. But yeah, it will definitely be used in loyalty programs. But in general, like we work with Adidas, New Balance,
Right.
Dior, L'Oreal. We mentioned many different fashion brands and like Warner Brothers, NBC Universal,
Right.
and in all those cases, like our role is to create avatars and avatar accessories. The assets on the video is from Dune, the movie Dune, for example.
Right.
So, anyways, like our goal is to make those assets wearable on the avatars and usable across all the different places in the metaverse.
We do want to thank our sponsor today. That is Trezor.io. Make sure and check them out. Safe place for your coins. If you guys are not self-custodying right now, what are you doing? You should be. We teach this and coach this all the time. Self-custody is really kind of the number one spot to be. If you are having to go on exchanges, do it in a way that you're in, you're out, and get back into your self-custody position. And Trezor is a great partner. And of course, it's a safe place to check your coins out. Also, you can get into the coins themselves. So just a lot of times people don't realize how many coins are available on the Trezor and what you can do with it. Tradable in the Suite app, which is similar to other apps out there. I won't mention names, but you've got, of course, all the majors, including even stable coins and even things like XRP. So jump into Trezor. Just use the link below for that. Okay, so let's talk about money. How do you guys make money? Is it just licensing fees, design fees, integration fees? What is the core, biz rev for you guys?
Yeah. So we are very developer focused, and then when we built our business model, our goal is to be as widely used as possible by developers. We built the business model to drive adoption. So the using the tools is free for developers, for brands, and so forth, and we take a revenue share from the avatar economy. So whenever any NFTs or assets or skins get sold, we take a revenue share for that, and that allows us to keep the tools free and give the tools so anyone that wants to experiment and build new kind of cool avatar experiences.
Yeah, for sure. I think that is, we've seen that model work with other things in NFT platforms. Obviously, the different ecosystems are being built. So I like it when companies do that, especially, and plus it gives you the ability to scale with size. So if you do get success in a certain area, you can scale in that particular, discipline in terms of building out content. Hey, let's talk, you think of the kind of deployments you guys have done so far, lots of very integrated ones, some of them, kind of expected. Where do you see the growth for use case in, say, the next 2 to 3 years? Because most likely we won't see Web3 completely become a household integration across all of the Web2 products that we use on a daily basis. Where do you guys see the growth over the next few years?
Yeah, so I mean, we're all about interoperability, which you can create, with Web3, but you can also create it with just modern, whatever, like games, tools, and tech. So where we see growth is like the thing we're really focused on right now is proving on a sufficient scale that if you buy a skin from a game that you can use in 1,000 worlds, then people will spend more on that. If you can buy assets that are interoperable, that is a better business for games. That is a better business for brands. That is just a better way to do things. It's a better user experience, of course. So we want to prove that on a sufficient scale to kind of tip over some of the more traditionally thinking game developers and virtual world builders that are not like philosophically aligned or with the open metaverse, but they're just like, they want to use Ready.me because, or like they want to open up their platform because it's just a better business decision. And I think when we get to that point, then it doesn't become about the philosophy. It becomes about, it's a no-brainer business decision. Like, of course, you have open economies. Of course, you sell avatars that travel across worlds because that's just a better way to do things. And in general, like, there's kind of two paths for the future of the metaverse. One is a centralized path where we'll end up living in one world built by one company, not the future. And the other one is a more open metaverse, which is more like the internet, where you can navigate between different worlds and have a somewhat consistent experience, and it's all owned by one company. And we need to tip over enough of the kind of more traditional games that are not in the
Right.
Web3 spirit yet, in
Yeah.
order to tip the world towards the open metaverse. And that's really what we're doing. And I think that's a very important thing that needs to happen in the space.
So you're very bullish on being able to bring this type of technology into existing gameplay, into existing game partnerships, being able to kind of leverage in to the next level. Because, obviously with traditional, what we're dealing with in Web 2 games, obviously very little, if any, use case of NFTs, definitely no ownership. So that obviously kind of
Yeah.
stifles the potential for revenue. So what about video integration? So we've seen all sorts of new tech kind of coming into video, the potential now for use case in Web3 and Metaverse. But even if you look at something like avatars for YouTube, for a show like ours, why wouldn't you have the max headroom kind of concept of being able to flip that out? We were showing some of the avatar buildings that we were doing just of my likeness. Sometimes I need to be able to produce 2 or 3 shows at a time. Why can't I just go ahead and flip it over to my avatar? Anything in the works there?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think like kind of VTubing, and then just using avatar for video creation, content creation is definitely on the rise and will continue accelerating. The good thing with that is that it allows more people to create because they don't have to put their real identity out there. So you can build
Right.
your own whole channel around your avatar, which kind of lowers the friction for like starting to create stuff. So and that's why I think some of the kind of content creation platforms are also really taking a look at this in a serious way. Yeah, so there'll be a lot more of that for sure, and like virtual streamers, virtual celebrities, doing all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, we've seen a little bit of this already on YouTube, but it hasn't necessarily kind of taken off. I think if some of the bigger channels were to, kind of legitimize it in the sense of whether it's, it's not, even though you're going to see some pop culture kind of flow into this, I think there's a big room for kind of the news, entertainment, kind of the more serious focuses of where, especially on here on YouTube. So that'll be interesting to watch how this will be rolling out there for sure. Let's talk about personal ID in Web3. What's the likelihood of us having an avatar, metaverse, having a real personal ID? Obviously, we know Web3 is really kind of the future of personal identity control, data, the authenticity, all those types of things. Is that a direction for Ready Player Me? And are there some potential opportunities here for that kind of marketplace?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think this is definitely where things are going, and the avatar is something that the visual part of the avatar is kind of like the thing that represents you, the thing that you're most emotionally connected with. But then ultimately, you want to carry around, assets, and you want to maybe have a wallet you can use in many places, of course, and things like that, metadata between different games. And all of those things need to happen to make it easier for people to navigate between different virtual worlds. And that's necessary for the open metaverse to really exist. Like interoperable
Yeah.
systems, avatars, and other things, those are the things that really enable the open metaverse and enable the open metaverse to compete with the centralized kind of competitors. So yeah, your open kind of username, user ID that you can travel with needs to happen and will happen for sure.
I know we had a nice conversation with the Unstoppable Domain people this last week, and there was a lot of discussion around this in terms of personal ID and the future of Web3. We got into gaming and the use case of avatars also other aspects
Mhm.
around that. So I'm excited about this because I do think this is really going to be the use case that propels Web3 forward, is the whole
Mhm.
aspect of users, not only their data, but their ID, being able to control, on the blockchain and really kind of lock in a lot of opportunity. With that being the case, then I look at, some of
Mhm.
the innovation that's happening in the industry and I think of, all right, why hasn't Apple taken a step in this direction? They seem to be
Mhm.
somewhat anti-NFT, and they definitely are anti-creator right now in the sense of just their, their surcharge of what they're doing. What
Mhm.
is your thought on Apple's crackdown here recently on some of these, especially NFT integrations? And I could see where this would play into obviously the avatar model as well.
Yeah. I mean, um, yeah. Let's see. I think it's very hard to get around the platforms, So,
Yeah,
and it's kind of hard to make them change their ways. I think, for one way, if it's clear, kind of what you can do, what you can't do, is better than having like it not clear. So, I'm not sure if it was possible that you like have a game and you sell NFTs in the game and you on iOS, and then you kind of skip the Apple
mm,
tax. I don't think that was like ever a real possibility, right? So that's that. But now they're trying to charge for like whatever gas fees, or get a percentage
right.
for gas fees and things like that,
Yeah,
which is like kind of like completely um, feels like uneducated. But I don't know what their plan is. We plan to play nice with the platforms and operate on them, because that feels like a better way to achieve our mission.
yeah. I feel like the Apple, the more and more we look into it, it just seems like they've got something up their sleeve here for what's going to happen in their version of Web3 or maybe their own version of Metaverse. We'll see how that kind of goes. What about going and partnering with companies like Meta? Which why wouldn't they just use a Ready Player Me as? And you've seen kind of what they've done so far. Why not just leap
Mhm.
to a Ready Player Me? I mean, this is quite, in my opinion, rudimentary compared to what you guys are doing. What's the holdback here?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think they think of avatars as an important part of their metaverse, and that's a part they want to own, like all the other parts they want to own.
Yeah,
you know, so like
it's
they're
all about
building a
control.
closed metaverse.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. So they're building a closed world. Like you can use your avatars on only on the Oculus ecosystem, maybe wider in their ecosystem in the future. But it's like a very closed approach to building things, versus like we're the
right.
open version, right? And then
Yeah.
we have a lot more people using our avatars, and I think the open systems will win over time.
I would agree with you. I think the framework, especially in Web3, when you just consider what consumers have really dealt with over the past decade in terms of loss of data control, a lot of, we'll just call questionable activities in terms of marketing to us, et cetera. I think the opportunity for Web3 is going to be quite different. The creativity is also going to be an absolute new, kind of a new era of innovation. There's just going to be a lot more available there than we don't even know what we don't know yet around new products and services that will be developing in there. I want to talk further into your roadmap and where this is going. So we kind of know what you guys have done so far. Lots of integrations, lots of partnerships. The interoperability, I think, is killer, and I liked the model of the NFT rev share. What's future for you guys, especially if you look into 23, 24 in the next couple of years?
Mhm. Sure. Yeah, so I mean, our goal is always to help developers within with their outer systems. So far, it was about giving them an outer system so they don't have to build them one, and save time and so forth, and be a part of the interoperable network. Now it's moving more towards monetization. So really enabling the cross-game economy, helping developers sell stuff in their games that work in thousands of worlds instead of just their game, and really proving on scale that this is a better business model for any game, or like most
Yeah,
games. So that's what we really are focused on, and just enabling content creation for other people, opening up tools for individual artists to be a part of the network and create and sell their own assets. And then kind of bridging all those different things. I think we're spending more time on creating a smooth end user experience for traveling between different worlds and managing your avatar and assets and stuff like that. So there's a lot of very complex technical problems that we have already solved, and we are solving with the interoperable content, and it has to work in different game engines. Has to be performant. It has to be optimized for different types of applications. And we've been building Autos for 9 years. So we started from hardware, building scanners, then custom building Auto tech for big gaming companies like Tencent and Huawei and ATC and so forth. So we've been doing this for a long time, and now it's really building out the interoperable content system and the monetization, and scaling to more and more developers and helping them with Autos.
Okay, so I think about that, and then you look at just what's being done at OpenAI with like the ChatGPT project. With things of this nature, especially in the voice aspect and real-time integration of Q&A, all sorts of things. This could go into customer service. I think this will disrupt customer service in no time. But that ability to kind of create that visual mechanism there, where will Ready Player Me plug into something like an OpenAI, scenario?
Yeah. So I mean, like, we're mostly focused on the visual aspect of avatars, creating an avatar that you love and you can relate to, and then like the assets and the economy around that, and then the identity piece as well in some sense. We're not that focused on kind of the intelligence parts of avatars, which is like making the avatars talk or speak with each
Right.
other or represent your identity or like your character in a conversation. I think all those things will happen, and all those things will make the metaverse experience even more engaging and more interesting. And there'll be more ways to use avatars for customer service, but also as game characters and so forth. So all those things are just like tailwinds
Yeah.
for more engaging experiences or whatever, like go for the whole space. So and like just it's just mind blowing. The whole thing, like, I spent a lot of time in this chat. It's crazy.
ChatGPT. Yeah, it is. It's pretty
Yep.
significant.
Yeah.
I've done several tests with it. I was surprised at the accuracy of it. Even at the
Mhm.
stage in where it is right now, I can only imagine what this is going to be
Yeah.
like in just a couple of years. So pretty interesting. Last question to you, Timo, is Sony. Sony's launching their motion
Mhm.
capture wearables now for Metaverse.
Yep.
What about something of this nature, where you do see the potential of integration in with device wear, whether it's our handheld devices or at some point wearable devices down the road? How would that
Mhm.
potential integration start to play into something that like you guys are doing there at Ready Player Me?
Yeah, I mean, any game that uses Ready Player Me avatars and will support the Sony devices will kind of like use the Sony devices with Ready Player Me avatars. So
Okay.
if you like play, VRChat, for example, VRChat has their own system for kind of creating those animations or translating them to the avatars. And if you use a Ready Player Me avatar, then you know that it already kind of works with those new devices. So we don't necessarily have to integrate with the device itself. We're integrated with the games, and the games kind of integrate the device, if that makes sense. But very happy to see if we can do something directly with Sony as well. But like all those things, like just make the experience better, more immersive, more engaging for people, which makes people spend more time in virtual worlds and get more value, from spending time in virtual worlds. So like that's all like good, and we just like to see all those things happening, the space kind
Yeah,
of
for
forming
sure.
around us.
Listen, I'm really excited about what you guys are doing. I think there's a lot of use cases that we'll start to see really excel, even in Web 2. I think Web 2 right now is probably
Hmm.
the bigger potential for many of these types of developments that are the perfect bridge into Web 3 when we start to see really mass adoption. So you guys are definitely going about the right way, at least in my opinion. Tima, it's been great having you on the show
Thank
today.
you.
Thanks so much for stopping in. We appreciate it.
Thank you. It was also awesome to visit. All
You
right.
bet. All right, so you guys are tuned in over on our podcast side of things right now. Jump over here to the YouTube channel. Get a chance, because like an example of this show is just the visual side of this, really trying to process what's happening in the avatar space, metaverse, a lot what we do when we talk about gaming, et cetera, NFTs. I know that you guys like the podcast, but this is really kind of where you're going to catch all the full feature of it. We can't really explain a lot of that stuff in audio. So jump over here, make sure and subscribe, like a couple of videos. And if you're not in our Diamond Circle, join now. It's free. Just click the link below. It's very easy to find us. And if you guys want to get me, it's out there on Twitter @Paul Barron. We'll catch you next time right here on Metaverse Insider.